Morning. Can anybody hear me?
Okay, everybody, it's 9 o'clock and we shall make a start if everyone is present. All right, everyone, we'll start with our karakia. We'll ask Dale Marie to lead us through that.
Tēnā tātou I te whare I te tuatahi, tēnā koe I te mana whenua. He mihi kawana ki Ngāti Wairere I tēnei wā, takoto I te rangatira, tākiri mai te ata tūna, rātou ko ngā pare hopa, e mihi ana ki a koutou Ngāti Wairere. Ki te hunga ora, tēnā tātou. Kia hora te marino, kia whakapapa paunamu te moana. Hei huarahi mā tātou I te rangi Mārie, aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou, I a tātou katoa, huie, taiki. Tēnā tātou.
Thank you, Dale Marie. Thank you. Okay, look, if we just might take a wee break, we'll just get some more chairs. I'd like everyone to be comfortable this morning. Sharon, Bernard, there's a couple of chairs here. We'll bring. Yeah, no, that's all right. We'll just get you comfortable. All right, everybody. First of all, we'll start with our apologies. Now, we don't have any around the table, but we do have two of our elected members joining us online this morning. So, morning, Monty. I can see you there. And Roger Gordon is also joining us online. Roger is there, yes. He's just, his video is not working. Roger, can you hear us well? All right, we'll keep moving while Roger's reconnecting with us. Do we have any disclosures of members' interest this morning? Bill?
Yeah, we don't need to record.
Okay, so just, yeah, if you want to just explain that.
Just at this afternoon's issue in Ngāroto, I'm just indicating, being Ngāti Apakura Hinatu, that Ngāroto, or Wairoto as we tend to call it, is pretty sacred to us. So.
Thank you, Bill. I'll just note also on page 93, my bar manager's renewal licence is noted in one of the reports. Just so if anyone picked that up at the Don Rowlands Centre, I don't see that as a conflict. There's no decision to be made, but my name is mentioned there. All right, we will move on to our late items. Any this morning? Nothing? Excellent. Confirmation of the order of the meeting. Who's happy to move and second that? Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Dale Marie. All in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. Oh, morning, Roger.
Morning.
We can hear you now.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, I've got no picture and I wouldn't have a clue. I'll wait until morning tea and see if I can get it connected. But I am here. Yeah.
Okay, welcome.
Good in spirit. Yep.
Right, we'll move on to our confirmation of our minutes on the 3rd of April on page 8. Any changes, amendments anyone would like to see, or is everyone pretty happy with them? Claire is happy to move. Lou is happy to second. All in favour? Carried. Right, that brings us to our first item, which is our District Growth Quarterly Report. We have Wayne in the room. Morning, Wayne. I'll let you get settled. We're on page 41.
All right, tēnā koutou koutou, good morning, Chairperson, Mayor and councillors. This is the quarterly District Growth and Regulatory Services Report for the period 1 January to 31 March 2024. It's quite comprehensive. I have a number of the team members here that can answer specific detailed questions, but I'd like to take the report as read and just comment on a number of issues that I see pertinent and to just highlight. A moment. Firstly, just want to comment on page 42, the RMA reforms. So the government resource management reforms continues to evolve at pace. Honourable Chris Bishop, Minister for the RMA reforms, announced 3 phases of the RMA reforms. Phase 1 is the repeal of the Natural and Built Environment Act and the Spatial Planning Act, and that was completed in December 2023. Phase 2 is in 2 parts. Part 1 is the introduction of the fast track approvals regime. Now, this fast track issue is a polarising one, balancing the need to facilitate timely delivery of infrastructural projects, timely delivery of infrastructural projects while protecting the environment and upholding treaty settlements and promoting legally sound and effective and efficient resource management processes. Now, the submissions have closed on that. 19th of April, Waipa did lodge a submission on that matter, and the Environment Select Committee is considering those submissions. Part 2 of that phase is targeted changes to the existing RMA. There's 2 bills associated with that. Bill 1 is focused on amendments that need to be progressed quickly to provide certainty to industry, councils and resource consent applicants. That bill is to be introduced into Parliament in May 2024, so shortly, and we haven't seen the detail of that. Bill 2 is more substantive changes that will have a real impact in the short term, the government indicates. This involves making the medium density residential standards optional rather than mandatory for councils. Council staff submitted on possible changes and circulated a copy of that response to elected members. The Minister asked for changes for a number of the councils about what that bill could compose of, and we quickly turned around our comments on that. And then finally, phase 3 is developing a long-term solution to replace the RMA based on the government coalition agreement of principle of enjoyment of property rights. So that's just a quick summary in relation to RMA reforms.
Thanks, Wayne. Comments on that? No?
Still have other matters, Madam Chair. Secondly, the future-proof submissions. This is page 42 on the future updated 2023 future-proof strategy closed and hearings are completed. Decisions are to be issued. Thirdly, the district plan changes updated provided on page 43 of the agenda. PC20, the airport, the appeal on that is nearing resolution in terms of consent orders. Plan change 26, we have medium density residential standards. We have no decision yet received from the Minister on our extended timeframe request. Fourthly, I just want to comment on the waste to energy plant update, page 46 of the agenda. The Environmental Protection Agency agrees with the councils that the proposal has matters that are nationally significant and that the proposal should be called in for decision making. No recommendation has been made about whether this is a board of inquiry or the environment or decision making panel. We have not yet received the decision from the Minister. We have put that Environmental Protection Agency advice to the Minister on our website, and we have issued a media release. A couple of other matters.
Oh, sorry, Wayne, we'll just have a question from Claire, if that's okay.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Wayne. Just on that, because it's now going to change track and go to a different process. My understanding is that it has to go through another notification process because of that. Is that correct?
Yes, that's a good question, and that's my understanding as well, and that is detailed in the Environmental Protection Agency's advice. It appears that the application would have to be re-notified and submissions would have to be received once again.
Yeah, which could really extend the timeframe for any decision again, is it? Yeah, because I mean, that all takes time, doesn't it? Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, Lou, did you have a question on the same subject?
Absolutely on the same subject. Just quickly, if this process carries on, as you're saying, we have to have a reapplication, can we still control the fact that we would like to have the actual hearing available to people locally here, like have it in our area? Because I think it's vital that we don't have this in Wellington, this hearing, away from our people that are actually being impacted. And I think a lot of local people would want it to be a bit local.
Absolutely, and we've made that advice to the Environmental Protection Agency and other government departments that is our preference for a board of inquiry that is heard locally, ideally in Te Awamutu for the hearing, so that is ease of opportunities for those that want to participate in the hearings process to be involved. Just moving on, page 46 of the agenda, Kelly Road Land Use Consent Application, decision of members of the Regulatory Committee's hearings panel for a 6-unit compact housing development has been appealed by the submitter, and we'll work through that appeal issue. I also highlight that Environment Court appeal by NNV Jennings. A consent order has been drafted reflecting amendments to conditions. Consequently, if the consent order is signed, there'll be no substantive hearing that will be required. And then finally, my notes, development contributions, I just draw your attention to that. Quarter 3, 47 DC notices issued, amount charged 2.57 million, revenue received 0.59 million, total DCs outstanding 65.1 million. And Tony did advise me that to date for quarter 4, we've received 2.7 million so far. So that's the report. As I say, there's a lot of information in the report, Madam Chair, and I guess the recommendation is to receive the report, and if there's any specific questions of a number of members of the team.
Yes, there will be a number of questions. So we'll go Claire, Philip, and then I've got a question as well.
Yeah. Thanks, Wayne. Great report. There's so much in there and all such vital work for council. I've got about 3 things I just wanted to raise. The first one is relating to that Kelly Road resource consent or land use consent. On page 47, it mentions that 5 commissioners were involved on that panel, but in actual fact, in the end, there were only 3. Yeah, I just thought it's important to have that corrected. Kelly Road. Oh, was it? Yeah. Well, anyway. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, and then with the Te Awamutu and Kihikihi growth cells, the T2 growth cell, I just wanted to point out that there's been a pedestrian raised platform put in there. And I've heard comments that agricultural vehicles cannot pass through it without either knocking the arrow sign off or knocking over recycling bins that might be on the pavement. Yeah, and I just thought it'd be really great if the designers could make sure that even agricultural vehicles can get through. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll make a note of that.
I mean, I appreciate that there's a reason for narrowing it to make it safer, but I'm sure it's going to cost a lot to keep replacing those arrows. Yeah. And then just lastly, it's to do with the growth cell status reports. I'd just like to suggest that for every cell, we get just a little column that says percentage of growth cell developed, so that we don't have to search through the text each time. And in fact, I just feel that this is going to be a focus for us as we are trying to become more efficient with, our opening up of growth cells and things like that. If we just have it as standard reporting for all of them,
Okay, I'll take that on board and see what we can do. I know we do indicate in some of those sections about how much has been developed in some of those growth cells, so.
but I mean, if it was just part of those, either under the title or, a separate column or something, just make it really easy for us.
Yeah, thanks, Claire. And I agree with you. I've been following this as well, and it would be make it a bit clear as to where we're up to, and perhaps help us decide or help us kind of influence, when we think we need to be opening up more. I know staff are well on well abreast of this, but it's just for our information.
Yeah, it's a really tricky thing though, and this might be why it hasn't been adopted before, because I can remember, like, I was on the hearing panel for the T2 one, and one of the arguments raised by the applicant was that even though there were a lot of open growth cells in Te Awamutu, it doesn't actually mean that there are sections for sale. Like, it depends what information we're wanting to get. Yeah. And I'm sure Wayne's got his own ideas about that.
Is this a similar?
Just the same thing.
Yes.
Just talking about these growth cells, it's actually critical that we do know now, because we've just had an announcement that how big Waikeria is going to become, and the demand locally is going to increase exponentially. So we will need to have that knowledge so that we know which cells are going to be active. How many are actually active at the time? So I totally concur with Councillor St Pierre.
Yeah, no, thanks, Lou. Okay. Claire, did you have any more questions? Well, that's it. Okay, great. We'll go Philip, and Roger, I see you're online as well.
Thank you.
Morning. Thanks, Wayne. Thanks for another great report. Page 51, you've got the pie there around DCs. C3 is the biggest contribution of DCs. Isn't that under construction, or does that include the C3, a larger area, that other subdivision?
Yeah. Perhaps I'll be corrected, but I think that might be Te Awa, but am I right or wrong on that one?
Welcome Tony Coots to the table.
Hi there. Yeah, so it's a combination of Te Awa, but also some of the repayment from the previous C3 block and the Chartwell block.
Yep,
So
Chartwell,
they've
right,
repaid their
yep.
wastewater DC component as we've finalised that agreement.
Right.
And then the Q4 that I mentioned is probably a Te Awa payment, is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
Excellent explanation. Thank you.
Another question, a separate question, which actually isn't in your report, but we get asked from time to time. The new medical centre there on Victoria and Norfolk Drive, that seems to be all come to a bit of a halt. Do you know anything about that? What's going on there?
No, I don't have an update. Do you have an update, Tony? Okay. Sorry, you might as well just stay here for some of those specific detailed
Thanks,
questions,
Tony.
but I think they're just progressing.
So they have had every consent approved by council. So now it's just coming down to activated tenants. So it's trying to find the right tenants to come in for their, matching that medical need. So they just haven't found the right tenants to fill those, and therefore they're not looking to activate the rest of it. So
I'm happy to provide an update, but offline.
Right. Okay. Cool. Okay. Good. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Claire
Yes.
again?
Hang on, Tony.
Oh, sorry, Roger. It's Roger. Sorry about that. Yes, your turn.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. Excuse me. And my question is very much along the lines of Claire's and your comment as well. And there's a lot of action going on, particularly in the Cambridge growth cells, and it would help me to get more of an understanding and a picture if perhaps and maybe the other Cambridge councillors might like to do this, is to sit down with Wayne and Tony and to get a clearer mental image of what's happening in our growth cells. It would certainly help me. Is that possible, Wayne?
Yeah, look, absolutely. I just need to think about the logistics of that and how we can communicate that, not only to yourselves, but to all elected members, I guess, in terms of an update on the growth cells and how far what's happening in terms of development within them. So, yeah, we'll take that one on board and we'll just give it a bit of a thought about how we implement that.
Yeah, the kind of things that I'm thinking about is getting a picture of what these densification requirements may be that are going to be introduced and what impact that's going to have on green fields and how we're going to go and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, okay, no, absolutely hear your suggestion there, Roger, and we'll definitely be looking at that. Claire?
Yeah, sorry about this. There was one other question, and that was going through the tables of the building consents issued. So that starts at Appendix 3 on page 87. I was just comparing the activity for Tuamotu for dwellings, yeah, compared to like Cambridge and like Pirongia. And it just seems that Tuamotu is actually really low activity. Like in January, I think there were no new dwellings or maybe one transportable dwelling compared to 4 in Cambridge, and like in February, yeah, there's only dwelling there, one in all of Tuamotu, yeah, compared to 11 in Cambridge. Like it does seem to be very low. Like, is that accurate? And does it reflect that pretty much nothing's really going on in Tuamotu? Because like I drove past the T2 one on Frontier Road, and there's a lot of new houses there going up. Yeah, so I'm just questioning.
Already.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Is this figure 13 that you're referring to? Is this figure 13 that you're referring to?
Yeah, page 87 it starts. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, yeah. So it's got
Yeah.
it lists the building consents issued, the type. Yeah, and I was looking at dwellings.
Right, so figure 13, which is page 14 of the report, I don't have a diligent number, but in there it talks about new dwellings by location with a comparison for the previous quarter of the last year. And quarter 3 for 2023 had 19, quarter 3 for 2024 had 36. So we've actually had an increase in number of new dwellings over the previous quarter, and that is an increase in the Te Awamutu and Kiki area for 8 versus 2 from the previous quarter. And similarly, Cambridge and Leamington, 23 versus 11 of the previous quarter, but slightly down for the rest of Waipawa district.
So there might be a little bit of a mismatch between the actual appendix that's got those. Maybe there's a time.
There is a difference between whether one incorporates amendments and the other doesn't. So
Okay, right.
that's one of the key differences.
Yeah, and you think that figure 13 is probably the more accurate?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Yeah, no, look, thanks, Claire, for that. Look, I guess this has been something that I've raised with Ms. Susan and Kirsty as well, in terms of economic productivity and what does Te Awamutu's kind of future look like given the slowdown of the economy. In fact, Andrew, who I know is present here, and I've been also talking with the Te Awamutu Chamber and Community Board, because I feel like it would be quite good to have a bit of a picture. And this is where, of course, our new economic development advisor will be able to help us understand where things are at with Te Awamutu, what the opportunities are. And I think this has to be a bit of a collaborative approach. So it is something that I've spoken to Kirsty about, and I'll pass to Kirsty now as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So yes, you did raise this with me, and we've spoken about the next phase of Ahuaki, where we're going to be coming out to the community through a special consultative procedure. Alongside that piece of work, we'll also be undertaking the review of the economic wellbeing strategy. So that will be part of the engagement running alongside Ahuaki. As part of that piece of work there for the economic wellbeing strategy, we are engaging Infometrics to assist us in terms of our district, in terms of the future scenario that we are promoting through Ahuaki, and what that looks like in terms of our economy. So that information will provide elected members, I think, with sound foundation for the way forward. Yeah, thank you.
And look, I guess one of the outcomes that I really want to see with this, like I said, collaborative effort are some initiatives, some sound initiatives and some actions that can come from it. So I think engaging with the Te Mare Chamber and Community Board will be really important, and we engage with businesses who perhaps have some opportunities, or we may have businesses looking to come into Te Awamutu who might just need a little bit more help and advice in setting up shop here. So that's where I'm coming from. Now, Bruce, did you speak? And then Mike.
Yes, thanks, Liz. Regarding your consent summary, Wayne, can you there's only a small decrease between this quarter and the last one. Any idea how that's going forward? Like the next quarter, can crystal ball, or is that too much?
Yeah, I'm not an economist, but when you sort of listen to the advice that we receive from folk like Infometrics, it appears that the economy will probably more likely pick up in the next year as opposed to currently. So I think we're still in for I don't see a buoyancy occurring this year. I think it's more likely to occur next year.
So the next one going on, I think page 49 with the gross sales and your relationship with developers, do they feel the same way? Is any feeling that they're a bit cautious at the moment? Are they gun shy, maybe?
Yeah. No, I've been speaking to some of the developers, and there's certainly a big market slowdown at the moment. Sections are not selling, people are not investing in new builds. So I don't see it in terms of a turnaround until next year.
And the next one's for Tony. Sorry, Liz, that's all right. With DC Recovery, we've got a lot of money outstanding. Is that open end? How long is there a cut-off time when, okay, we need this money?
So there's no way to force them to pay ahead of them getting their consent certification. That's just the nature of it. There is cut-offs in terms of if they want to have their consent lapse or not. That's the cut-off date around when they have a lapsing date of their consent. They have to get it certified or resubmit through it, and then we'd have to redistribute what they should get charged. So consent is, for building consents, around 2 years, I believe, in terms of when you issue the payment versus when they can get CCC before it withdraws and lapses. With resource consents, it's 5 years in terms of that. With regards to, that's the subdivision consent side of things, and there's also potentially an additional sort of 2 years on top of that with when they lodge their 223 application versus when they lodge their 224. So they get an extension through that process. But what we've got in terms of the DC profile is that you've got DCs, most of the outstanding DCs were lodged in 2022. So there's probably about another 2 years in terms of expected timeframe for that to come through. And that's what we've forecasted through the DC revenue, which has gone through into the debt to revenue ratios.
Sorry, this last one, Wayne, with the gross cell boundaries, like I'll pick on Nahanapuri, you've got a red indicative boundary. When does that get pushed out? Is that on completion of a subdivision? Does that get moved out? Like at the moment, the new subdivision isn't included in it, in Nahanapuri page 27 of your report. That's only one of them, for instance. I just, at some stage it must move out because the village is expanding, but I didn't know if that happens when or what.
So there's 3 growth cells in Nahanapuri. You've got N1, which is already about 50% developed. N2 is still currently live zoned, and then N3 to the south is a post 2035 growth cell. My understanding is that there is interest to uplift that post 2035 status and enable that development to occur. The landowner that owns both those N3 and N2, they own them concurrently, and they're thinking that it's more financially beneficial to them to activate that cell ahead of time. But that would require a plan change in order to do so, to uplift that live zoning. So that would have to go through its full resource consent process. In terms of land outside of that, in terms of the sprawl that's required, that would have to be a private plan change. I don't think we have anything that's planned to enable the growth in the Nahanapuri other than what's already currently zoned there.
What does mean around the golf course and heading sort of west, there's that N1. When that's finished, does that red line extend around there? And say, okay, because the N2 and N3 are going to take a little bit of time to get into gear.
Yes, so I suppose that's quite an older plan. That's from Waipa 2050 strategy back in 2017. So that plan hasn't had a lot of update in terms of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It'll
but
happen some stage.
yeah, it's essentially N3 is activated and it is developing, and they have paid their share towards what's required for the infrastructure in the Hinapuri when it comes to pay. Yeah.
Mike Pettit.
Yeah, thanks to the chair. More a comment really, and just an awareness from a community point of view. Page 60 of our report in C2, that school being put on hold, which we sort of had alluded to, and it has through this report here been confirmed. Yeah, just, there is going to be a need for more classrooms as these subdivisions come online. It's just something we need to be aware of, but the community need to be aware of, particularly in those gross cells C2 and 3, where they probably were expecting a school, which is now being put on really indefinite hold due to where it was in the priority of new school builds. It sort of hadn't started, so it was an easy one to knock off. But yeah, disappointing from a Cambridge point of view, and something I think we just need to really stay on top of.
Yeah, thank you. Mike?
Just on that, I absolutely agree. We've been working closely with the Ministry of Education for a number of years now to get that site secured, designated, and ready and infrastructure to support that school and get the school built. So it is quite disappointing that the funding issues have arisen nationally, which has affected this build as well. So Tony is staying in touch with the Ministry of Education and getting updates from time to time. So if we have any further updates, we'll let you know as soon as possible. But
Hey, just any financial implications for us? I mean, the land's obviously secured by the ministry, but any financial implications for us, revenue we're expecting we're not going to get?
So because it's a ministry organisation, they're exempt from DCs. So in relation to that, the only thing that we would have got from revenue would have been water billing, essentially. So in terms of revenue received for that block, we're no better off or worse.
Oh,
No DCs and no rates.
but
Yep.
there's pan charges, eh?
Which I don't believe we would have set up those pan charges just yet, but they would have had a wastewater charge based on how many blocks they have in there. Yeah.
Monty, online.
Yeah, hi, hope you can hear me. Just following that school thing, so just 2 points. One, a designation is in place, I'm understanding, and question 2, how long does that designation endure?
correct for question 1. Yes, the designation is in place. The designation is in the district plan. I'm sure about that. 5 years. 5 years. Yeah, that's 5 years sounds right for me. But we can just check that. But certainly, there's no time pressures on the Ministry of Education. But we'll just check that because we essentially got through all the regulatory requirements to allow for the construction of that school. It's just been a funding issue. So, but I'll check that and let you know.
All right. Okay, no, that sounds good. Lou?
Just one question on Kiki and Te Amutu growth cells. With this huge injection of money that's coming into, 1.1 billion going into Waikeria, will we be able to activate some of these like T15, T5, some of these blocks that are actually up to 2035? What's your thoughts on that?
So T15 has had a active subdivision within it. So
Yes,
it's got a stage subdivision, and the developer is releasing that just as land comes available to them. So I think that's a 15 to 20 lot subdivision that's within there. So T15 has got an activated portion through there. The other surrounding growth cells around Kiki is T6, which is large lot residential, which is already live zoned. The other one that's in close proximity would be T5, and that was to be activated with the Western Arterial Link, and looked at in saying in terms of timing, the activation of that cell in line with any upgrades around Ohaupo Road, or Kiki Road, sorry, and an intersection around that in Gulf Road. The caution I have with that is activating another growth cell comes in additional costs that we have to then forecast out and then add to the debt revenue ratio. You have to forward fund that infrastructure, and we don't have any plans for that Western Arterial to go through at any point in time just yet. So we would be forward funding that plus additional funds going towards an intersection upgrade around Golf and Kiki Road. Yeah.
Thank you, Tony.
All right, that's great. Hey, look, and just one comment from me just on the future-proof strategy update. Of course, just to note that, yeah, we had the hearings back in March, deliberations were last week. So we're I guess, as our future-proof partners, which now includes Matamata Piako District Council as well, really important that we just keep looking regionally at, land use settlement and what our neighbours are doing and how that affects us and how we can all continue to work together. So thank you to David, who supported me last week. But I'm really looking forward to just continuing to work with our future-proof partners. Really vitally, really important work right now as the Waikato continues to grow pretty jolly quickly. Now, if there are no other questions, we have a recommendation on page 41 that we accept the report. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Thank you, Philip. Thank you, Claire. All in favour? Carried. Right, now, hey, look, we'll move on to our next item on page 118, which is our Community Board 2.0. We have Joe Greed, who is going to present this along with Kirsty. And I'd just like to welcome, I see Joe Davies-Colley and Ange Holt are in the room, our chairs of our respective community boards. So welcome both, and you're on the next item, aren't you? All right, over to you, Joe.
Good morning, everyone. The purpose of this report is really to provide an update to you on Community Boards 2.0. So we've got included in the report for you the Community Boards 2.0 implementation plan, which is the actions that we've been working through, an update on the project control group, the PCG, which was established to measure the process success and failures. So that includes not only what we've been doing, but also you'll see on page 3 of the report a list of upcoming actions. And also there we've got attached to the report is the report that was done by Stephen Finlay back in November 2023. Is there any questions on any of the information that has been provided today?
No one has a question as yet, I can see. No, Mike's going to ask a question.
Yes, so I'll just have one question. On page 119, and it's got a section, point 5 there, community boards to re-engage with communities in Mana Whenua. Just, I think from memory, last time we had a chat, there hasn't been too much done around the Mana Whenua aspect. Just ideas there of how we can get deliberate involvement there. Has that been sort of discussed, or any ideas that have come from the last time we discussed this?
Through the chair, I think that what's been acknowledged is that there are capacity issues with Mana Whenua that's been raised across the board. And I know that in discussions with chairs that there is contact utilising existing relationships that has taken place, but certainly that's something that we can also be looking at as part of the development of our partnership framework that is underway. Elected members are aware that there have been 2 hui held with Mana Whenua of themselves, and there is a hui to be held later this week as between elected members and Mana Whenua. So as we progress that work, the expectation is that giving effect to Community Boards 2.0, we would also then link in with the community boards as part of that wider framework.
All right, so just a subsequent question to that then. Just, like Bill Harris is sitting here as a Te Kānohi, would that concept, has that been explored for community boards? Like what council have introduced here before the Māori wards?
Through you, Madam Chair, not that I'm aware of.
No, I don't think we've discussed it around this table, but hey, it presents an interesting concept and maybe, you know, there is an opportunity to consider for the future, actually. Bill, would you like to comment?
Kia ora, Mel. Thanks for your question, Madam Chair. I took part in the original review and made submissions to the reviewer, and I proposed something along those lines, but I haven't been back to that review since being asked to originally put in some proposals. But I know that both community boards are receptive to iwi and mana whenua presenting, and I've presented on a number of occasions, both to Cambridge and to Tiamuru. But yeah, your question is, are the community boards able to take that a bit further, like council, with a recognised representative, be it a kānohi or a ward member? That's a question I don't think has been picked up in the review process thus far. But I know both Ange and Elise are receptive to our input. There's no question about that. And maybe that's something that needs to be put back to them to consider. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. Jo?
Just in terms of, I suppose, you do have the constraints of membership that are in the Local Electoral Act, and as we have, you know, around your council table, we don't have any takanahi around there, because what we can do is we can appoint members to the committees, which is the next layer down. And the same principle applies to the community boards. I suppose just in the community board space, they don't actually have any committees at the moment that sit under them and work under them. They just have the boards themselves. So if they had maybe committees that that they had a need for and operated, that could be something that they could, you know, adopt that Te Kānahi approach for. I suppose it's just, you know, them working through what you know, if they need committees and what they might need them for and who they might then have on them.
Thank you, Jo. Hey, look, I guess, you know, from my perspective here, the bringing in an external independent person to take a look at community boards, I think has hopefully been a really useful exercise for both community boards. You know, it's not an easy thing to, for us, you know, when we're so entrenched in our work, to kind of be able to have an external and independent view. So I think this has been helpful. I absolutely support the suggestions and opportunities going forward for both community boards. I think and I know that both community boards are receptive to that as well. I guess this is probably an opportune time, just based on Mike and Bill's comments, that, hey, we're a year and a half out from, you know, another elected member election. And so this may be a time to start thinking about, okay, how do we want to represent our communities to be represented, specifically following the great work that our strategic planning staff have done around ahuaki and how we might represent ourselves and communities a little bit better going forward. So yeah, maybe it's that there's certainly some thinking to be done around this table, I think. Claire.
Yeah, thanks, Liz. Those are really thought-provoking, suggestions, and that's why I thought, yes, that ahuaki consultation. Kirsty, will questions like the shape of our community boards and, I suppose, representation around the council table, like, will that be something that will be covered with the ahuaki consultation? Or I hadn't imagined it would, but I mean, it could easily be sort of part of that participatory democracy kind of initiatives that we're kind of wanting to explore. But I guess that's going more in the traditional, I suppose, end of the spectrum, isn't it? Whereas the participatory democracy stuff was more, this is kind of new and we want to have a go at certain things at certain times. Yeah, what does the community think about that? So what are your thoughts there?
So through you, Madam Chair, the consultation on ahuaki is very much focused on the substantive spatial plan and the implementation component of that. It is a formal consultation process under the Local Government Act, so it will be quite specific in terms of the feedback that we'll be seeking. And saying that, we're working with Lisa and her team to develop up a communication strategy for that piece of work. So that's not refined. I note also that at the end of April, Council approved the Anchor Institution framework, and as part of that, there's a component relating to community collaboration and opportunities for us to further explore those community participatory processes and how they're utilised in a wider context for our organisation. Dr. Stephen Finlay also in his review report references potential opportunities for community boards, council utilising those community participatory processes to better connect with the community as well. So I think it's all in the mix. I'm not sure that Ahuaki Special Consultative Procedure is the right vehicle, but there is further work to be done in this space. That's acknowledged. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, look, thank you everyone for your comments. Maybe some opportunities and some thinking to go there. Okay, are there any other questions on this report? Otherwise, on page 118, we have a recommendation that we receive the report, please. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Andrew. All in favour? Aye. Carried. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Kirsty. Okay, we'll move on to our next item, which is our community board reporting. And as mentioned, we have both Ange and Joe Davies-Colley in the room. If you'd like to, did you want to come up or? Yeah, that'd be great. So we're on page 167.
Morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for making time for me in this agenda. It's always really good to come and have a chat to you about what the Cambridge Community Board has been doing in the last 6 months and what we're planning for the next 6 months. If you don't mind, I will refer to us as the CCB. That way I don't have to say Cambridge Community Board every time. And I do just want to remind you of our mission statement as a board, which is to be friendly and visible representatives working together for the good of our community. I won't go through every point that's in my memo or speak to everyone, and I'm very happy to take questions after. But I did just want to make a few points around Cambridge Connections. As you know, Cambridge Connections has been a proposed plan that has really garnered a lot of community commentary and feedback and engagement. And particularly for some in our community, it has provided some stress and uncertainty. And I really believe that the CCB has been integral in absorbing some of that emotion and frustration. And I think we've been a very crucial link between the community and council. We have had 2 very full and emotive public forums, a lot of in-person engagement, many emails, lots of phone calls, and I'd really like to thank Brian and Lisa at this point. Brian has fielded numerous emails from me, helping me get further technical information for people so they can make their feedback. And Lisa has worked really closely with us around the communications on this project. So definitely want to thank both of them. We have helped people find further information that they've needed. And overall, a great positive that has come from Cambridge Connections has been the level of engagement that as a board we have had. We have had more engagement on this issue than any other issue in this term or even the previous one. And I actually said to Liz the other day, I've had people say to us, hey, we didn't even know there was a community board. And now we know what you guys do, we know who you are, and that has been really great for us. We are being very careful that this is not the only issue that we are focusing on. We have other business as a board, but certainly it is the most important one for us right now. And even though it's been a very busy and full-on time for us, it's been a real pleasure for us to be so closely engaged with our community on this. I really feel that during this last couple of months, especially, we have been working exactly how a community board should. We have been very entrenched in this issue, very close to our community, but working in perfect partnership with council. And I really feel like we have been those friendly and visible representatives working together for our community. So that's really what I wanted to say on Cambridge Connections. Very happy to take any questions on that or any of the other points in our memo.
Oh, look, thanks, Joe. And look, a particular huge thank you to yourself and all your board members. You know, this hasn't been an easy time, but you're right. the relationship between the community and the community board is stronger than ever, and it's working in exactly the way that we wanted it to, so that the community have a place that they can ask questions. And you're certainly been doing an excellent advocacy in that space. So appreciate the extra hours I'm sure you've been putting in recently. Okay, we have a question from Roger and then Mike.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And Joe, I would just like to acknowledge the really excellent way you chaired and managed what could have been quite a stressful environment. I think you did an absolutely marvelous job in managing and giving respect to those people that came in and presented. So through your through your chairmanship, I think you created a real positive occasion out of what possibly could have been a little negative. So really, really well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Mike was next.
Yeah, thanks for the chair. Yeah, just to reiterate that, well done, Joe. You're leading that board through a really political time, which is difficult to do, and you're making it look easy, which I know it's not. And there's times to have the shortest meeting, and there's times to have the longest forum, public forum, and you've got those right as well. Hey, just a little thought going forward, and it's been banded around this room, and it's been sort of kicked a touch because of being too hard. But having gone to Banff recently and just seeing their sort of mission to get towards carbon zero or waste zero as a town, and from every shop, and actually people really been on board with it, and the tourists that are coming in really been on board with it, and we've kicked it to touch because of recycling and that and contamination, and we don't believe it would work. But I'd really like to see at least the community board explore that as an option to bring back to us, of, hey, not how can't it work, because it's easy to do, but how could this work? Who could we partner with? Who would we need to get on board in our community to get proper recycling and heading towards, sort of net zero in terms of waste in our town? It would be a big goal, but I think it would be a great community board led thing if it was even possible. So I'm not asking you to do it. I'm just saying, would it be worth as a board exploring that as part of your sort of next part of your strategic plan moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. We're always looking for ways that we can engage with the community and with you guys, and very happy to explore that for sure.
Thanks, Joe.
Say something quickly
Oh,
before you could.
but just as on the same issue.
On the same issue, just with recycling, I congratulate you. You've taken up the challenge with the batteries. That's great. Tia Moody actually worked with urban miners. We've been very strongly involved in that. And that is part of this recycling and getting everything going. So your funding, I see the battery collection, well done. And I want to congratulate you for it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lou. Philip.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks, Joe. As a council rep on the board, I echo what Mike and Roger have said. The way you and the board have handled this situation, it's been you guys have been. We've been a really good advocate to the community, and it sort of reminded me a little bit of the public forums of old when prior to the construction of the new swimming pool and things like that, we used to have packed forums. But the community boards work really well when they're managed as well as they have been. So congratulations. Yeah.
Hey, just a final thing, just on the sister cities. Obviously, it's been a really busy time. I just wanted to sort of, just thank Alana for the work that I know she's been a busy lady on sister cities with two, visits both from Lukenwa and Pōhoro in the last year, and of course looking to make reciprocal visits in the next 12 months as well.
Yeah.
So just. That of course is a piece of work that is often unrecognised. So just a thank you to
Alana is all over sister cities. The success of both of those delegations last year is solely down to her hard work and her organisation skills, and both of those events went so well, and she really is an asset to our board, especially when it comes to sister cities. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I know that's good. And for those of you that are not aware, so there is a plan to go to Pōhoro in late September, early October. We've gone out with a request for the public to put a indication of or an expression of interest of those who might like to attend. And there is certainly talk about going to Lukanwa for Anzac Day next year, because it will be the 25th anniversary of our sister city agreement, which of course with Cambridge and Lukanwa it's been held quite dearly. So look, we'll leave it at that. So
a little something about sister cities, please.
Yep,
sure. So last week I was appointed the director on the board of Global Cities New Zealand, Sister Cities New Zealand. So that's a 3-year term, so I've been appointed on that. So thank you.
rightio. So look, well, thank you very much for your report, Jo, and we welcome Ange Holt to our table. Morning, Ange, nice to see you.
Just before I start, I would like to also commend Jo on how well she managed that meeting. I jumped on and watched that meeting, and it was a very, tricky situation. And I was also really impressed with the way that she was really empathetic and made people feel heard and listened to. And I'd also like to acknowledge council and staff for taking on board what the community said in that instance, because I believe that's really calmed everything down and made a real difference over there in Cambridge. So good luck with the bridge issue ongoing.
Thanks, Ange.
So tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you to Chair Liz and councillors for having us join you today to speak to our report. I'd like to also take this opportunity to thank the councillors for meeting with us recently. It was for us a worthwhile exercise, and we now have a better understanding of how you see the role of the community board. We do hope we can meet again to continue to build relationships and garner support for the ideas we bring forward from the community, such as the Homes Garage. We are on balance meeting and exceeding our strategic goals. As pointed out in our report, we did have a significant breakthrough with you, Kohinihira and staff agreeing to meet with key stakeholders of the Te Awamutu War Memorial Park to reconcile any differences and help interested stakeholders feel heard and valued. We look forward to this happening in the near future so we can iron out the wrinkles and move forward. We believe this is possible with some good listening, giving interested parties the opportunity to have some input that can be implemented, or if not, then quality rationale is provided for why it cannot happen. Another highlight, even though small, is our high-vis jackets, and I have a model over here. The green ones. These have been marvellous at the various events where we have worn them. They stand out and set us apart. Our new flags also look very smart and help us to be identifiable. Thanks, Sally. Oh, better just show our logo, just not Waipō District Council. So we've got our logo as well on there. So, they've been really great at Urban Miners, and I think Kane stood out at the Daffodil Planting Day and different things that we've been to. So it's been quite neat having those.
Thank you, Sally.
And mine got an extra workout the other night as my son ran 10Ks, and I wasn't happy about him running at 8:30 at night in the dark. So I made him do some advertising for me wearing the community board high-vis jacket around the streets of Te Awamutu. Not sure anyone saw him, but anyhow. We have gained respect and recognition from our community with regular feedback showing appreciation for our efforts. I noted in your agenda report on the Community Board that it stated the functions of the Community Board as per Section 52 of the Local Government Act 2002, and I'd just like to highlight these. A, to represent and act as an advocate for the interests of its community. B, consider and report on all matters referred to it by the Territorial Authority or any matter of interest or concern to the Community Board. C, maintain an overview of services provided by the Territorial Authority within the community. D, prepare an annual submission to the Territorial Authority for expenditure within the community. And E, communicate with community organisations and special interest groups within the community. We believe we have and will continue to implement these functions to the best of our ability with the resources we have available to us. I asked in my written report, how should the community board be advocating? I think you answered it pretty well at our recent gathering, so please correct me if I have it wrong. Primarily, our job is not to advocate for community issues, but to focus on advocating for the projects in the LTP that the community supported in concept. When the time is right and we have funds available again, I think the Te Awamutu and Kihikihi Community Board will be keen to do some work towards getting a recycling resource centre, as it fits with our strong desire to have a circular economy. We also have always been keen to support Te Arawai in some way, so maybe there is an opportunity for us to confirm it is still something the community wants and highlight the benefits it will bring. Going forward though, in the short term, we are cutting our cloth to fit what we have and are hoping to focus on a few small projects, if permitted, where we can be hands-on and work alongside our fellow community groups to provide some tangible benefits to our community, such as those projects listed in our report and in our submission to the enhanced annual plan. In addition, these will enable us to continue to build community relationships and see some improvements around town that do not cost large sums of ratepayers' money. Finally, the views, desires and ideas of the community are very important to us. We strongly believe if we can listen, support and facilitate the implementation of some of those ideas, then we will have connected communities. We will continue to do our best to advocate on their behalf. After all, it is supposed to be 70% of our role, according to Dr. Stephen Finlay. Communities that feel like they have had input generally take ownership and pride in their towns and are more likely to be satisfied with their elected members. So thank you. That's me. Any questions?
Thanks, Ange. That is fantastic. And really great to see, I guess your report and the issues that you see given the current climate. I mean, like you say, we're all cutting our cloth right now. We would all love to do so many other things, but it is just a time for us to consider what's best for the community. Thank you for Sally. The model show there was great. It's good. And I noticed it in your report as well that it just does help with your visibility around the community. And yeah, good to see that you're sort of taking those small but important steps for you, essentially. Right, so we've got Andrew and then Claire.
Yeah, thanks. Great report.
Oh, thank you.
Ange.
Thank you.
I really think you've nailed a couple of things. And in particular, getting stuff done, like in terms of significant projects, it really, the long-term plan is the place where you have to start. And there's one coming up, like, well, it's going to be this year, but it's now. So it's in focus right now. But that is the area to look at, projects that the community board wants to happen for this town. So the way council works, and you've obviously comprehended completely that, doesn't matter how good an idea is, it won't happen if it's sort of thought up and you want to make it happen now, because councils can't work like that. They have to be,
Need a couple of days' notice.
Planning and all that stuff. And like, we're dealing with public money, so it's got to be really, handled in a very process, I guess, driven way. I love your idea. Like, honestly, it was mentioned well, Mike brought it up in terms of Cambridge Community Board. I think waste minimisation, roads, like that's it's huge for every community in New Zealand, and a great thing for a community board to be getting their heads around.
And it also fits well, like we've been involved with the waste minimisation as part of our community board for a long time, since I think 2019, when we first did that big e-waste day. So it is something that that we are passionate about, and this current community board is definitely very focused on reduce, reuse.
No, so look, I think it was a great report and great to see you guys really, doing well.
Cool, thank you.
Claire and then Damarie.
Yeah. Thanks, Ange. Yeah, great report. And I just wanted to say thanks very much for pulling together that meeting that the elected members and the community board had, at the RSA, because it was really great to be around the same table, chance to, get to know your members and things like that. Yeah, so really appreciated that. I guess I picked up that you're still waiting to have that meeting to do with the Memorial Park. So has there been any talk about setting a date and something? Because I'd really like to see that happen. I think I said I'd be happy to come along.
Brad is all over that.
All right, so he's all over that?
Yep.
Oh, well, as long as he's all over that, I'll take his word that it's going to happen. Yeah, no, thanks. Because I am quite, I thought there was a great initiative to try and get that done. And just picking up on, some other things that you've talked about that weren't in your report but could have easily been there, and it would have been great to see, like that resource recovery centre does fit in with that waste minimisation anyway. But I did have a great talk to Jill and Sally after that RSA meeting and discovered that we have a shared passion for youth things. And so if you were also going to look at youth things, which again doesn't necessarily mean it's got a big price tag on it. It's more like just, bringing together other like-minded people and seeing what the needs are for youth in Te Awamutu and possibly Pirongia. I'd be keen to see that progress and certainly happy to put my head in the ring to help with that as well. Yeah, so thank you.
That would be great, because just on the youth side of it, Jill, I don't know if you realise, but she's been sort of doing a little project on her own a wee bit, where she runs a weekly youth group for all the kids who can't afford to do after school care. So she organises that, and it's currently down at TA Sports for a couple of hours. Any kids can go along, intermediate or teenage from college can go along and join in. So she's been doing that, as I say, for well over 12 months. And I believe they're going to try and make the New Zealand's biggest hot dog soon. So,
I heard world then.
Yeah, so that's coming up with the intermediate. And then she's also been working with staff to put some adult fitness equipment in. She's actually, through her own connections, managed to find a considerable amount of funding to be able to have some proper adult fitness equipment that the youth are actually really keen to be able to use. So hopefully that will progress and we'll see that actually happen before the end of the year with a bit of luck, but we'll just wait and see. But she's working very hard at that.
Brilliant. Okay, Damarie and then Susan. Susan's going first. Yeah.
Thanks, Ange. Great report. Couple of questions. I recall when it was some time ago when I was actually on the board, we were talking a lot about public art. I recall I posted something on Facebook, light years ago, and it was greeted with this overwhelming chorus of yes, please, we'd love more of this in our town. And I think at a time where things are tough for people. We all appreciate that. I kind of feel like public art can play a role in lifting this sort of psyche. So I kind of invite you to perhaps dust off the work, because I know you did work personally on it too. I think it's a good visible uplift in a sort of for a community. So just flagging that. And in terms of that recycling conversation that we've had, I'll send you a link to a piece of work that's been done down in Queenstown, and it's in the construction recycling sector. I think it would be really quite a cool joint collaboration, given we're a growth district. Admittedly, things are sluggish at the moment, but that won't always be the case. So I'll flick you both the link to this piece of work being done in Queenstown, which is really awesome, which I also sent on to Shelley Wilson, our So I think it would be something that could you know, there could be
Do
some
together.
collaboration across the district and in that construction space. So just that's the background to that. So you can expect that in your email.
Okay.
But great report. Cheers.
Thank you. Just in regard to the art, when we did our strategic plan, we did talk about it and we're all keen on it. But there were things that people wanted to follow through with first. But to my disappointment, to be honest, because I was really excited about it, that, you know, can't have my way all the time, even though I try. But hopefully it definitely will come back because it is really cool. And one of the ideas, though, that we did loosely talk about was getting the youth involved to do that street art. So that was something we have talked about a little bit, but we definitely can revisit it because it would be it's a lower fruit, whereas the resource centre and some of those are pretty money related. So yeah, but no, good, thank you. And funny you should say about working together because I was going to say to Joe, oh, if you guys want to, you know, on that resource stuff, that would be, you know, utilise those resources together. Like that idea.
Yeah, no, thank you. Dan Marie, question?
Ka, he kōrero. I te tuatahi I pānui au ki roto nei te tikanga hui. So I'll pull back that tikanga hui because you already did it. You did it at the RSA. And sadly, but gratefully, my cousin walked across the graduation stage, so I couldn't give up that to come to the RSA. Hoi anō I te whakakapi mō tēnei kōrero. He mihi kawana kia koe kōruatahi ko Joe. Nā kanohi I whakatinana nā kōrero o te hāpuri ki roto nei I o kōrua ripoati I tēnei rangi. Tēnā koe, tēnā koutou, nā puari a te aumutu kiki te okohoroi. Tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
Kia ora, Dale Marie.
Okay, if there are no other questions, you know, again, thank you for both of your reports. We appreciate that two community boards are not exactly the same. We celebrate your differences as well and acknowledge all the hard work that you and your other members have done. So I've got a recommendation on page 167. Susan's going to move it, Lou's going to second it. All in favour? Carried. Thank you, everybody. Okay, now before we move into our next item, we've just got an update from the Ministry of Education query, Mike, that you mentioned earlier. So Kirsty's just going to run through that.
So through you, Madam Chair, Wayne has followed up, and just to confirm that the period for which that designation applies is 10 years. So that's due to come to an end or lapse at 2031, but there are provisions that provide for that. Thank you.
Okay, now look, our next item is a public excluded item. So we need a resolution to exclude the public. So Claire and Andrew moving and seconding, all in favour?